Hi, everybody, and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Ullman. Thanks so much for watching. This week's Out of the Gate is presented by Keeneland, and here's what's on tap. Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I will preview the three major Kentucky Derby prep races this Saturday: the Bluegrass at Keeneland, the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct, and the Santa Anita Derby from the Great Race Place. Plus, bonus coverage for three-year-old fillies prepping for the Kentucky Oaks. It's the Grade 1 Ashland at Keeneland. Nicole Russo will have her pedigree picks for two of the interesting undercard races at Keeneland on Saturday, and Jonathan Kenshin has a major pick 4 play that you don't want to miss. Let's get started on Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate presented by Keeneland, as we do each and every week, with our hot topic. Three major Kentucky Derby prep races this weekend. I bring in Mike Beer, I bring in Matt Bernier, but we ask ourselves in the office, if the Kentucky Derby was going to be run this Saturday, who's your horse? I'm putting these guys on the spot. They usually don't think about these sort of things. Matt, you still have no idea as I ask you this question right now. Is that true?
Yeah, that's 100% true. We're going to roll with it, though. I suppose it's Always Dreaming, and I hate to just sort of throw this horse out there because of what he did most recently and whatnot, but he looked really good winning the Florida Derby, and I understand Pletcher's record in the Derby, not very good. But finally, it felt like we had that sort of, I don't want to call it a breakthrough performance. We obviously saw Mastery earlier this year, but he's gone now. He's injured off the trail. I guess by default I would land on Always Dreaming. I'm not thrilled about it, and luckily I have a few more weeks till the real races run.
Mike, what's your thoughts on Always Dreaming? I think it's very interesting that he has two 9-furlong wins. Yeah. So although he's relatively inexperienced, he's got that foundation with those 2 mile and an eighth wins at Gulfstream.
Yeah, that's true enough. I like his Florida Derby win just fine. I thought he looked awful good, perfect trip or not. I like the way that he won that race. He was way the best in there, and I guess the distance should be okay with him. On the other hand, as far as this hot topic is concerned, give me the fast Pletcher horse, Illman. The 103 buyer for one liner. He's 3 for 3 for Pletcher. We haven't seen him in a few weeks now. We haven't seen him since early February, actually, when he won his last race to Southwest at Oaklawn. But I thought he looked awful good that day. Staying close to a fast pace, closing it down with a good finish, and he got a figure for the race. I'll stick with him, maybe just mostly because we haven't seen him in a while, and so he's the horse that I can stick with off of one good race.
Out of sight, out of mind. If the Derby was going off on Saturday, maybe he'd be an interesting price. Matt, I'm interested in your thoughts, however, on one liner. He ran that gaudy Buyer's speed figure last time out. You're looking usually for improving horses going into the Kentucky Derby. Can he move forward off that big number?
If he does, he's a major threat to win the entire thing. I guess for me, my only reservation, so far the Arkansas path seems to be a little lackluster. He won that race the way he's supposed to, but doesn't One Liner and even Always Dreaming and Battalion Runner, they feel like the typical Pletcher where they run and we don't see him for a long time, then they run and we don't see him until the Derby. There's one Pletcher thus far that just continues to run, and it's sort of against the grain. It's Tappert. Maybe he's the best one. We'll see him Saturday.
Both you guys go with Pletcher. Of the Pletchers, I would prefer Tappert, but he's not my one if the Derby was run on Saturday. You guys are going to laugh because I kind of bashed this horse a little bit. Classic Empire is my one. The 2-year-old champion. Can't you make the argument that Classic Empire's best is better than what we've seen from the 3-year-olds this year, considering all of the turmoil in this division? Winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He's his own worst enemy. True, he's a little bit nutty. He gets hot in the post-parade. Sometimes he doesn't want to train. He's willful. That could be a nice thing. Classic Empire, though, I think is going to run very well in the Arkansas Derby next week. Mark Cassie's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He doesn't have a lot of preparation. He wants to get a hard race into this horse in the Arkansas Derby, but he doesn't want to squeeze the lemon dry completely before the Kentucky Derby. Matt, am I way off topic or way off the mark at least with Classic Empire?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. As a 2-year-old, he ran faster or as fast as what we've seen from the best 3-year-olds thus far. If he can just somehow keep his head right, he has every right to be a major player. Look, if he wins the Arkansas Derby, would you be stunned if he actually went off favored in the Kentucky Derby? Because I wouldn't. What he did as a 2-year-old is every bit as good, if not better, than what we've seen from the 3-year-olds thus far.
Mike, did he peak at 2? Yeah. Is there another forward move for Classic Empire? I think you can make excuses for his one race at Gulfstream and all of the behavior issues. He is behind the 8 ball in terms of preparation, but when he's good, he's good.
Yeah, that's all true. Of course, you can make excuses for what happened at Gulfstream. That's not the real question. The real question is, do you want to be making excuses for this horse off of only one start as a 3-year-old, which was an unmitigated disaster, and we haven't seen him since. I mean, I hear what you're saying about his 2-year-old race. The real question is he that kind of horse anymore? So far, we don't know. I guess we'll find out in a couple weeks.
3 different opinions is our top horse if the Kentucky Derby was run this Saturday. 3 prep races this Saturday that might impact our decisions if we were going to talk about this topic. I don't think we're going to bring it back next week, however. We're going to start with the Bluegrass. We begin the handicapping portion of Out of the Gate, presented by Keeneland, with the feature race at Keeneland on opening Saturday, and that is the Grade 2 Bluegrass Stakes. $1 million is the purse for 3-year-olds prepping for the Kentucky Derby. This race is at 1 1/8 miles, and I want to remind everybody, expanded stakes previews for all of Saturday's races. I believe there are 14 graded stakes races. We handicapped them all from the A to the Z. They're available on video.drf.com. Let's bring in our in-studio handicappers to talk about the Bluegrass, and we have to begin, Mike Beer, with McCracken, undefeated, arguably the leader of this division right now. We talked about Mark Casse. He's going to have to do this delicately with Classic Empire due to lack of preparation. McCracken missed the Tampa Bay Derby with a minor problem. It's up to his trainer, Ian Wilkes, now to get a good hard race into him in the Bluegrass without squeezing the lemon dry. It is a prep after all.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, I don't worry about that stuff too much. I mean, they're racehorses. They're supposed to be able to run a race on Saturday and then come back 4 or 5 weeks later and run again. So I'm not going to worry too much about what happens with McCracken on Saturday. I think the real question with him is, you know, what kind of price do you want on him in this kind of race? He has had a little issue since his last race. I mean, he's 7-5 on the morning line. I know he hasn't made any mistakes yet. I know that he's undefeated on the way in. But what's his edge on this field really? How good is he really? And why is he 7-5 in this race? He is not for me on Saturday.
And Matt, the way you handicapped and analyzed this race is he may not have an edge the way this pace is going to shake out. It could work against McCracken if they walk early.
Yeah, certainly. He's a horse that it looks like he wants to make one run from the back of the pack. He's nothing but professional. I mean, at the end, you can't knock that about this horse. But like Mike said, he has no real edge. He has no edge, actually, when you want to look at the Beyer speed figures. We'll dive into that in a moment. But as far as the race shape is concerned, it doesn't look like there's a ton of speed signed on in here. Maybe you have 1 or 2 horses that want to go. I think McCracken's going to have to sort of show a little bit of versatility and be a little bit closer to the pace if he wants to make sure that he doesn't let the other horses get the jump.
Matt, we want prices on Out of the Gate, and you're going with a price. Pace makes the race. The word is that Wild Shot is on ascend.
Yeah, it just kind of bothered me. There's a 3-year-old thus far. It seems like the connections of Wild Shot took away his best asset, which I think was his speed, maybe in fear of his ability to see out 1 1/8 miles and longer. Sounds like now Rusty Arnold said, we're going. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're going to try to make the front, which I think is beneficial, and I think that's ultimately what this horse wants. You look at his 2-year-old form, he was almost always on the lead. I think his run in the Breeders' Futurity last year was huge at Keeneland. Maybe he can't get 1 1/8 miles, but he can't help but be a decent number in here, and I think he's going to be on the lead.
Mike, J. Boy's Echo had always hinted at potential. Was his last win, that giant Beyer speed figure performance in the Gotham, simply a situation where he's put it all together and he's ready to get to the upper echelon of this 3-year-old division, or did he just have a perfect setup?
Yeah, I think it was probably a little bit of both, actually. He had a great setup, a really fast pace. He sat off it. He came with a big run and he closed it down, but the race came back fast. And to me, anyway, it's not like it came out of nowhere. I mean, I think he was a horse who had hinted at some potential. I think he sort of got the right trip and put it all together to win that Gotham. It was a fast race. If he can run anything like it in here, I think he's really hard to beat. He's 4th choice on the morning line in this race. If he goes off as the 4th choice in this race, I am betting him.
I like Tappert in this spot. I know he was beaten by McCracken in the Sam F. Davis, but he has yet to take a backward step on the Beyer speed figures scale, and he really put it all together in a McCracken-less Tampa Bay Derby last time out. I think if he breaks, and that's a little bit of a thing with Tappert, he can be a little bit unsettled behind the gate. If he breaks, he can get a forward position, maybe getting the jump on horses like McCracken and J. Boy's Echo. I like when Todd runs his horses, and there's no one better than Todd right now with the 3-year-olds. He is simply on fire. I will take Tappert over J. Boy's Echo and McCracken in the Bluegrass Stakes. Another Grade 1 race at Keeneland on Saturday is the Ashland. Let's get to that. 3-year-old 5-year-old fillies prep for the Kentucky Oaks in the Grade 1 Ashland at Keeneland on Saturday. It's carded as race number 9 at 1 1/16 miles. And gents, there are 2 legitimate Grade 1 caliber horses in this race. Daddy's Little Darling, Mike Beer, is a late-running, long-striding sort. She has kept very good company. Does her lack of speed work against her? And when you look at her form, where's her fast race that makes her the favorite on the morning line at 5-2?
Yeah, that's the real problem with her. 2 real problems with her, as a matter of fact. As the morning line favorite, she has 0 early speed, so she will be last early in this race. And, you know, as fine as she has been running against some, you know, pretty good horses, I guess, as a 2-year-old and now as a 3-year-old, I mean, she hasn't really run a fast race yet. I don't know how much improvement she really has in her. I don't know if she's the favorite. I think this is a great race to be getting involved with because she's a good horse to bet against.
Matt, I think you agree. Kenny McPeak got a nice turf prep into this horse. She's got a big turf pedigree, but I think it was more along the lines of getting her away from Gulfstream and that speed-friendly track, getting her an opportunity to run in a 2-turn race to prep for the Ashland. But is there enough speed to set her up?
It'll be interesting to see. I agree with both of you guys. I mean, right now she doesn't have a fast race on her page. I don't think that precludes her from eventually running a fast race. I don't know that she's going to get the ideal setup in this spot, though, at 1 1/16 miles. I do think distance is her friend. It's also worth noting that turf race, like you said, I feel like that was just a starting off point. She can turf. She has a little bit in her pedigree, but I feel like this is what they planned on all along and get her ultimately to the Kentucky Oaks.
I do think she'll get a little bit of pace in this race. I like her as a horse, but I do think she's going to have to take a step forward. And even if she's not the favorite in this race, she's probably going to take a good amount of action. And I just don't like to back short-priced horses that are one-run closers and are at the mercy of race and pace luck. Matt, let's talk about one of the 2 Mark Casse-trained entrants. That's Grade 1 winner, Pretty City Dancer. Had a little bit of a hiccup physically after dead heating for the win in the spin-away. What are your thoughts about her 2 races thus far at 3?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I've never liked her. And maybe it's just because the hype machine seems to have always been there where she's just this great talent, but she just can't behave herself. Sounds a lot like her sort of stablemate, Classic Empire, where he's got a ton of ability, he just can't really behave himself. This filly, I think she's going to have to put it all together if she's going to get the job done here. The blinkers come back off. I haven't liked either one of her races down in Florida. She just seems to, you know, dawdle around, look out at the grandstand. At a short number, I'm completely done with her.
Mike, she's got a beautiful pedigree. She's got the credentials on paper. That means she's going to take money. The last race, was it simply a blinkers experiment that didn't go right, and you just want to take that race with several grains of salt? What did you think of the race prior to that? I was a little disappointed despite the layoff.
Yeah, I think if you're going to give her the blinkers excuse, I know they're coming right off for her next race, but I think you're being a little bit generous with that excuse for her. I agree with what both of you guys have already said about her. I thought there was something with her as a 2-year-old. She does seem like a horse who had a lot of potential, didn't really know what she was doing, but was still running good races. I wanted to see her take a step forward at 3. To me, she hasn't done it in her first 2 starts. I'd be very, very careful with her in this race on Saturday.
Guys, those 2 horses have Grade 1 credentials, but it's possible that the horse with the most upside in this race is the number 2, Elate for Bill Mott. Big figure debut winner, somewhat disappointing in the 2nd and 3rd start, at least in relation to her odds on the tote. But you know something? I don't think they were the disasters that the social media world made it out to be. Mike, am I being, too forgiving?
No, I don't think you are at all. I don't think it would be fair to call her 2 starts so far since that really impressive and fast maiden win. I don't think it'd be fair to call them disasters. She actually ran fine, I thought, at Tampa, chasing a horse who just got to the front on her and went a solid pace. She got a little tired and couldn't catch that horse, but I didn't think she ran poorly in that race. She got off to a really, really poor start at Oaklawn last time. I think it just left her too far out of the game. I actually felt like she did pretty well to make up some ground and get up for 3rd late in that race. I have no problem with the race that she ran last time at Oakland. I think she's going to be a handful on Saturday.
Matt, you agree. You like Elate's upside. You like her tactical speed. She's done some good things. Beautiful pedigree. In Mott, you trust.
Yeah, everything that Mike said, I would echo the exact same thing. And I kind of look at this filly and say the worst thing that ever happened to her was winning as impressively as she did in her first start. Because if you just looked at it and said, okay, well, maybe if she won by a length in her career debut and she comes back and she runs these 2 races in her first 2 starts as a 3-year-old, I don't think anyone's bashing her or saying she's overrated. But because she won in blowout fashion at the end of her 2-year-old year, I think people sort of set the bar a little too high, kind of making the comparisons to Royal Delta and whatnot. I still think she's got a ton of ability. I think Mott knows what he's doing, obviously, and he's just kind of slowly but surely bringing her along. I think she's sitting on a big one on Saturday.
It's fair to say there's going to be a lot of weight on Elate because I agree as well. She's my top pick in the Grade 1 Ashland. Super impressive debut. Mott usually doesn't win with first-time starters. This one won from off the page. At Tampa Bay, she was chasing a very fast pace, only her second start, first time around 2 turns. Last time out in the Honeybee, she had a little bit of traffic issues. She's learned with each and every start, I think, and I think she might have more upside than Pretty City Dancer and Daddy's Little Darling. I'm going to go with a late. I'm going to go 2, 3, and 5. Maybe Summer Luck, the other Cassie horse, would be sort of my long shot play in this race. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we move back to the 3-year-old colt division for the Wood Memorial.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate, presented by Keeneland. Let's move up to Aqueduct for the Grade 2 Wood Memorial. 3-year-olds prepping for the Kentucky Derby. Let's bring in our in-studio handicappers. Mike, this is your circuit. This is your track, Aqueduct. This is the signature 3-year-old race on the road to the Kentucky Derby, and you still have faith in Motown. Make your case.
I was going to say, it's not going to sound like it's my circuit in a couple of seconds when I give out Motown as my pick at the Wood Memorial. Dan, this is the kind of race where I get it. Chad Brown is sending cloud computing here. He looks really impressive off of 2 starts. I think there's a real chance he's a top 3-year-old, and maybe he just wins. I have to give Motown one more chance. To me, I loved this horse as a 2-year-old. I liked all 3 of his races. I thought he was cut out to be a real good one for Dutrow. And I know he missed some time, and he came back with a real stinker of a race in his 3-year-old debut at the Fairgrounds. He chased a fast pace. He got really tired. It was not a good performance. I'm giving this horse one more chance to rebound. Dutrow's worked him a few times. He brings him back to New York. He has form over this track. I liked his Remsen. I don't care what everybody says about the Remsen being a negative key race. I don't look at races that way, and not so sure one thing has anything to do with the other. I know I'm not on a lot of firm ground with Motown, but I'm giving him one more chance for Dutrow.
Matt, is this guy off his rocker? I mean, last time out, the Risen Star, he just didn't pick his feet up. Yes, it was a fast pace, but he was expected to do something.
He's certainly going to need to move forward. There's no question about that. But what you saw as a 2-year-old, that at least gives you some indication that there's a talent here. It's not like this horse can't run at all. If he can find what he did at the end of his 2-year-old campaign, he's got a puncher's chance in here.
Irish War Cry, Matt, your top selection in this race, eerily similar to Motown. Has ability, showed it 2 starts back. He threw in a clunker last time out in Florida. What happened that day with Irish War Cry?
I have no idea, and it sounds like Graham Motion has no idea either, but you know what? Sometimes it happens. I hate to just kind of chalk it up to circumstances. He was out there on a hot pace that day, and I understand anyone that wants to say his win 2 back came with everything just kind of handed to him on the front end. He's run too well in his first 3 starts for me to believe that the 4th start was actually what he is. I think this horse has ability, and the last time, and the reason probably is just sticking in the back of my head for better or for worse. Last time I threw a horse out that ran very well 2 starts prior to his run in the Wood, and then threw in a bomb in his race prior to that, was Frosted. I know Frosted had a physical issue with a breathing problem, but guess what? I threw him out, and he ended up winning in impressive fashion in the Wood. I'm not going to do it again. Irish War Cry, get redemption.
Mike, we're all against Battalion Runner in here. This is yet another good Todd 3-year-old. Looks good on figs, certainly form, has some upside potential and some tactical speed. What's the knock?
Yeah, I don't know if there really is a knock. I guess maybe for me anyway, the knock would be that when they stretched him out for the first time in his most recent starts, first time around 2 turns, I mean, he got it done in there, but it was a race where, I mean, he was very heavily favored. I just thought he worked a little bit too hard in that race, Dan. His figure declined by 7 points from his sprint 1 race prior. I'm not so sure. I know Pletcher's got every good 3-year right now. He's finding all the right spots for them. I'm not sure the Battalion Runner is really one of his good ones, though.
I'm going to go with Chad Brown's number 7, Cloud Computing. Maybe it's too much too soon. It's only start number 3, and Chad's already stretching him out to 1 1/8, but his career debut was really good sprinting. He was a little bit green. He was way more professional when stretched out last time out, and he was up close to a very fast pace and was punching on all the way down to the wire. I think this horse has some serious ability and some tactical speed. The problem is he might get hammered at the windows. He's 5-2 on the morning line. I think that's a fair price. I'll go 7, 3, and 6 in the Wood Memorial. This week's Out of the Gate is presented by Keeneland. We have Nicole Russo with some pedigree picks on the Bluegrass undercard, and Jonathan Kinchin has a pick 4 play at Keeneland on Saturday as well. Let's go to those segments.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo joining you from Lexington, Kentucky, where we'll open the Keeneland Spring Meeting this weekend. A busy day on Saturday, and on the undercard of those 5 graded stakes, we have this intriguing event. The 4th race is a 6.5 furlong maiden special weight for 3-year-olds. As we take a look at the field, some high-priced horses in here who there are obviously high expectations for. Among them, Marshall Plan making his first start for Stone Street Farm. The Speightstown colt cost $375,000 as a weanling at the Keeneland November sale. He's now debuting at age 3. They've obviously taken their time with him, and he shows a series of strong works indicating that they've got him ready to roll. He's from a very classy family, from the immediate family of Grade 1 winner and good broodmare Versailles Treaty, making his dam a half to Grade 1 winner George Vancouver and Grade 2 winner Sarland. There's another Speightstown colt in here in Switzerland who is a $500,000 2-year-old purchase, finished second in his first start with a solid buyer of 85. Another expensive 2-year-old in here was Super Flyover, who cost $400,000 as a juvenile last year. Let's watch him here finishing a good second in his only career outing last June at Parks, beaten by a horse, Derek Smile, who has come back to be a stakes winner at Gulfstream. Since then, Super Flyover transferred to trainer Mark Cassie by Ghost Zapper, who's having a career year, can certainly sire both routers and sprinters out of a mare who was Grade 1 placed at Keeneland. Super Flyover should move forward off that debut. Bourbon Extension by Not Bourbon, from just an outstanding family, champion Heavenly Prize, Breeders' Cup Sprint winner Dancing Spree, countless other Grade 1 winners on the page. The horses from Charles Fipke's program have pulled off so many upsets and hit the board in so many races that just look like they didn't belong in. So considering the class of this family, you might want to consider Bourbon Extension for the exotics. Now, I do want to take a quick peek at Keeneland's opening race also on Saturday, a 7-furlong allowance optional event, because I think the class of the field is very beatable. Grade 3 winner Batuman from the family of Quality Road is a fresh horse, has the best buyer in the field, but I think 7 furlongs is the outer limits of what he wants to do. Trainer Wesley Ward has got a pair in here, and I think Conte Partiro will wind up going off the shorter price of the two. Scat Daddy filly out of Street Cry Mare. That's a versatile pedigree. She's been running on the turf lately, but did win her debut at 5.5 on Keeneland's main track last year. But again, I think 7 furlongs is pushing it for her. So that brings us to Ward's other entrant, Star Empire, who is a pedigree pick. He's run well on both synthetics and dirt. You'll watch him here on the ladder, finishing a good second to the well-regarded Theory in the Grade 3 Futurity at Belmont Park by a stallion unfamiliar to U.S. handicappers, an Australian-born Fox Wedge by Fastnet Rock. There's some brilliance in that line, and crossing it over an Empire Maker mare, I think this 7 furlongs should hit Star Empire right between the eyes. That's all for this week. I'll see you out at Keeneland with colleagues Marty McGee and Byron King. Make sure to keep an eye out for all of us on Twitter. But for now, let's go check in with Jonathan over at Kenshins Corner.
Hey everybody, welcome to Kenshins Corner. We're getting close. Always Dreaming last week was a strong opinion I had. Unfortunately, the first leg of the double didn't go so well. Luckily enough, some of the other out-of-the-gate contributors kind of helped you find some other alternatives to mine. And we got some nice notes on Twitter about people cashing some tickets. Hopefully we can do that as well this week. We're going to start with the late pick 4. It's actually the all stakes pick 4. Starts on race 7 at Keeneland Racecourse for their opening weekend on Bluegrass Day. The first race is the Grade 2 Shakertown, 5.5 on the turf. Look, I learned a long time ago in turf sprints, I want to find the horse that's going to be on or near the lead that can finish up in these shorter races. For me, the horse that I landed on is my top pick. I'm going to use some other hay horses as well, is Justin Squared for Wesley Ward. First time from Bob Baffert. Wesley Ward obviously knows how to win some turf sprint races. The Timeform US pace projection has Justin Squared loose on the lead with not much other speed there. I love that idea, and I'm going to use him, and hopefully it'll be a nice square price. I'm going to use Rainbow Air, Green Mask, and Hoji also is A horses. If you look at Green Mask's last 2 races, he's been a little bit closer than normal, and I think that's going to be an encouraging place to be, especially considering the pace in this race. And then B horses, Mongolian Saturday, and partly Mocha. You don't want to leave a former Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner that won a Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint on this course at this distance. You don't want to leave him off your tickets. I don't think he's one that I fear very much, but he's definitely one that I respect, and I'm going to use a little bit in that spot. In the 8th race, the second leg, don't have a strong opinion here. If you notice, I'm going to use the 5, the 6, and the 7 as A horses. I think Paula Silver Lining is interesting, switching to Chad Brown, and I think Wheatfield's sitting on a nice race. And I'm going to use the 2, 3, and the 4 defensively. Constellation obviously ran a big race. Opening day at Santa Anita. Was a little bit short last time, but I think that horse was probably pointing for this spot, a grade 1 spot. I think we can expect a good performance from her, although I favor the other horses more. Going on to the 3rd leg and the grade 1 Ashland. For me, it's pretty simple here. I think a late's the most likely winner. If you take a look at the Honeybee, right when they break from the gate, she breaks a little bit slow here. She kind of gets pinched back in between the 1 and the 3 horse, shuffles back quite a bit. The jock lets her kind of just ease herself into the race going into the first turn. She's only got 1 horse beaten. And then we're going to pick it up here when we turn for home. You'll see her right in behind a kind of a wall of horses with the blue hat. She really starts to level off here when the jock sets her down, and she's finishing well in this spot. He's a patient trainer, Bill Mott is, and I think that this horse is probably sitting on her best race. The other interesting thing is that a mile and a 16th race at Keeneland, it's a short stretch. I think you want to find a horse who's going to be running on the turn. I think a late is that type of horse, and I feel like she'll run well here. I'm going to single A her, but I'm also going to use Sailor's Valentine. I loved her race on debut at Keeneland, and I think she could improve, and I'm going to be a little bit defensive with C horses using Pretty City Dancer and Daddy's Little Darling. And so just in case I'm wrong about a late, got some opportunities to catch some things to get to my last race single in the Bluegrass, the race of the day. I think McCracken's something special. I think he's going to eventually be our Kentucky Derby favorite, and I think that this performance is going to propel him to that. We're going to pick up just a real quick video clip from the last race when McCracken, if you take a look, you see McCracken, he's right here. He really, really makes a strong move. If you notice down on the inside, the 7 horse is Tappert, who is my only other B horse in this race. But I thought McCracken's run was really impressive first off of a layoff, and I would expect that he's going to move forward off of that performance, although he had a little bit of a break in there. I think Ian Wilkes has him going in the right direction. $2 all A ticket, $1 A with a B, 50-cent A with 2 Bs, and a little small saver ticket, A with 1 C on 50 cents, $105 budget. Good luck. Let's try to cash some tickets.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate, presented by Keeneland. Time for the 3rd 3-year-old Kentucky Derby prep race on Saturday. We move out west to Santa Anita. We bring in our in-studio handicappers. It's time to discuss the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby. Matt, a masterly less, I think I said that right, Santa Anita Derby. And with mastery out, that means you got a big field.
Yeah, when the cat's away, the mice will play. You get 13 in here. I think it's very difficult to separate the top contenders. I wish I had a stronger opinion in this race. I think you can go about 5 different ways as far as truly favoritism is concerned. I have no idea how the folks are going to bet this race. I'm leaning toward Baffert, though, and Baffert I trust.
There are several Bafferts in this race, however. And Matt, a lot of folks are going to say, well, American Anthem, graded stakes winner, took all the money at Oaklawn. He had the excuse, he sprung a shoe coming out of the gate. You're not going back to him, are you, at a short price?
He was my number 1 on our Derby top 5 for a while there. And I just thought the Oaklawn race was so bad that I can't forgive him. Maybe I'm getting off one too soon. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I'm going to Reach the World. I think this is an interesting horse. Got a world of education, I think, in that most recent start. Couldn't quite get to Battle of Midway, but I think the additional distance only helps him. And I wonder price-wise. Again, I have no idea how this race is going to be bet, but I'm hopeful. Maybe Reach the World is in that 9-2, 5-1 range.
Mike, American Anthem was your number 2 for several weeks on that Derby top 5 list before the clunker and the Grade 2 Rebel, but I like it. Loyalty. Right back to American Anthem.
I don't know if it's necessarily loyalty as much as it is, I didn't really know where to go in this race. My first instinct when I pulled the PPs was to go for one of the sort of new shooters, the more lightly raced unknowns of the race like Matt did. That's the way I wanted to go. And then I just couldn't talk myself into any of those horses. So I will give American Anthem one shot at redemption. I don't know what happened at Oaklawn, Dan. He was just awful in that race. Smith kept him very wide into the track. He never made a run. His first two races, though, to me, were too good just to, sort of give up on him already. I don't want Iliad in this race. I know he can win. I don't want him. If I get a fair price on American Anthem, he'll get one more shot from me.
Matt, we got to talk about Gormley. He's the most accomplished horse in this race. Grade 1 stakes winner over this track, multiple graded stakes winner overall. Are you so turned off by that San Felipe performance that you're going to pitch him? I could make the excuse, and maybe it's a weak one. He was in between horses. He didn't like that, and he never really got into his stride.
And maybe it is a valid excuse. I have a problem with that, though, betting a horse at a shortish number that if, he's between horses, he's not going to pick his feet up. That's a problem for me. The bigger thing, though, is, maybe I'm sort of mistaken in thinking that coming out of that sham, that Gormley demonstrated the ability to sit, because I think he was, a neck off the pace? Yeah. It's not like he actually sat. I'm starting to wonder if he is a horse that really needs the lead to run his best. He wasn't awful in the most recent start as far as figures are concerned. I believe he earned a 90 that day. But if you just watch the tape, he was awful that day. He's going to need to improve in a big, big way.
My advice to you, friends, is to listen to them. I don't have a strong opinion in the Santa Anita Derby. I wonder if Iliad has one more forward move into him. I'm a little bit dubious as to whether he'll get the 9 furlongs, and at a short price, that makes me want to sit on my hands as it pertains to the Santa Anita Derby. I was disappointed in the way he moved. It was sort of a tale of two Iliads in that last race, the San Felipe. He was moving so sweetly for the first 7 furlongs. It looked like he was going to be a strong challenger to Mastery turning into the stretch. And when Mastery drew away, Iliad looked sour, hopping leads a couple of times, flashing his tail. That's just not him. I just think without Mastery in here, he's going to work out a good stalking trip. I'd give him one more chance. He's really done nothing wrong in his career and in his last few races for Doug O'Neill. My opinion of the race is I think Gormley's going to run a lot better than his last race, but I don't want to have too much into the Santa Anita Derby. I'm going 9, 8, and 1. Maybe we can get Term of Art from the back of the pack in for a piece. Best bet time coming up. We've looked over all the cards on the weekend, and let's talk about our best bets for Saturday. Best bet time on Out of the Gate. This week's Out of the Gate, of course, is presented by Keeneland. Matt, you're going to Keeneland on Saturday.
Keeneland race number 6. It's the Commonwealth. AP Indian makes his return to the race. He's going 7/8 of a mile. I don't love that off of a long layoff. I think Awesome Slew is coming into this race in really, really sharp form. And maybe it's a little bit deceiving because he was well beaten second in his most recent start. But he was behind Sharp Azteca. If Sharp Azteca were in this race, he'd be odds on. I think the light bulb kind of went on for Awesome Slew. First time for Mark Casse, 1 turn. I think that's what this horse wants. Looks like there's some pace in the race. He should be a decent number drawn the far outside. Give me Awesome Slew in the Commonwealth.
I think that's a really interesting pick, and I agree with you. I think Mark Casse's figured out that Awesome Slew is now a mid-pack to late-running 1-turn horse. He really fits the Commonwealth. Mike, you got to be doing New York. That's your circuit, right?
Yeah, there's 45 graded stakes races across the country this weekend. Let's go to a 40 claimer at Aqueduct for our best bet of the weekend, race number 5. Paid Admission was off a long layoff on his most recent start, which was his New York debut. Squeezed back at the start, rated last on the rail. They walked on the lead in front of him. He couldn't get involved. He's second off the layoff now. He takes a little bit of a drop in class. He's 2 for 3 at a 1-turn mile in his career, so I think this turn back might work for him. And if they don't go fast in front of him and he gets off to a clean start this time, Castellano could keep him within range of the pace. I think this is a good spot for this horse on Saturday.
I'm going to go to Aqueduct as well. Race number 11 is the Grade 2 Gazelle for 3-year-old fillies prepping for the Kentucky Oaks. And I'm going to go with the number 4 Lockdown. This horse has a beautiful pedigree, a Juddmonte homebred. She is kin to Close Hatches, and she looked good last time out. First time Lasix, first time 2 turns in winning the Busanda. It was not the strongest Busanda field in the world, but she took a nice forward step. Now, she's missed some time after that race. I don't like a lot of the gaps in the workout tab, but Bill Mott had her down in South Florida. He could have run her in the Gulfstream Park Oaks at the logical mile and a 16th distance. I like that Mott is shipping her back up to New York. He wants this horse to get distance, stretching out to a mile and an 1/8 in the Grade 2 Gazelle. She is 5-1 on the morning line. I'll go with Lockdown at around those odds in the Grade 2 Gazelle. We thank Keeneland for their sponsorship this week on Out of the Gate. We thank you so much for watching. Best of luck this weekend when your horses break out of the gate.